There's tensions at the Haryana-Punjab border. At least earlier in the day, things seem to have been peaceful now, but barricades still remain. Police fired tear gas shells at the Shambhu Border as around 100 farmers started their Dilli Chalo March. There was clashes, there were tear gas shells. Mobile internet has also been shut down in several villages in Ambala till December 9th. Additionally, the bulk SMS services will also remain suspended in these areas. Among other things, farmers have been demanding for minimum support price according to MS Swaminathan's recommendations, loan waivers among others. In another part of India, there's been mobile internet ban for several weeks all over again. I'm talking about Manipur, in 9 districts of Manipur to be precise, since November 16th, as the state was pushed to the brink again following massive protests after the dead bodies were recovered. Last year, the state saw some form of shutdown, internet shutdown, some form of it for over 200 days. Well, now shifting focus, quite frankly, from Uttar Pradesh to Jharkhand, to Himachal, to Haryana, to Rajasthan, to even Jammu and Kashmir and Punjab and several other states, mobile internet shutdown is being increasingly seen as a necessity by the governments. And the reason given is law and order. But is there a bigger concern? Earlier this year, according to data compiled by Access Now and Keep It On Coalition, India implemented 116 shutdowns in 2023 with an increasing trend towards regional shutdowns rather than localized one, particularly notable in Manipur and Punjab as well, apart from, of course, the other states that I mentioned. India maintains its position as a country with the highest instances of deliberate internet shutdowns, marking the 6th consecutive year with the highest number of shutdown orders globally. It was in 2020 that the Supreme Court had said that freedom of speech and expression and freedom to practice any profession or carry on any trade, business or occupation over the medium of internet enjoys constitutional protection. The court stated proportionality and necessity should guide such shutdowns. Such an order must be published and reviewed every 7 days by a committee of 3 led by the Chief Secretary in a state or the Cabinet Secretary when issued by a union government. But what is the reality? The question that we are really asking is law and order the reason or a scapegoat? Internet shutdown and the various forms of it, is it necessity or convenience? I'm being joined by Jasmine Sandhavalia, who's a spokesperson for BJP, Arvind Kumar Jain, who's a former DGP for Uttar Pradesh, Khushbu Jain, who's an advocate for the Supreme Court, as well as Advocate APS Khadial, who's a spokesperson for Congress. Thank you very much, all 4 of you, for joining me. Khushbu Jain, if I can come to you first, there's been very strong orders from the Supreme Court. There's also been reports about how frequently India goes ahead with some form of internet shutdown. Even as we speak right now, Ambala, of course, the villages, several areas of Ambala are seeing internet shutdown. But then another part of India, Manipur, has been having mobile internet shutdown since November 16th, all over again. This, of course, after the 200 days of internet shutdown that it saw the last year. Khushbu Jain, how do you look at this? Is this in accordance to what the court has said?
One has to understand the reason behind such kind of a shutdown. There is no denial of the aspect, which is very clear that I enjoy a freedom which is guaranteed under the Constitution. And when it comes to freedom of speech and expression, banning an internet would be an obstruction to that freedom which is guaranteed under the Constitution. And the same thing is being spoken by the court again and again, that if you're doing that, there has to be a reasonableness to that. There has to be a connection to the exclusion which has been guaranteed under the Constitution. If it's not fitting and there cannot be a wider scope to it, it has to directly link with very specific exclusion that is being provided under the Act. You cannot interpret and make it much more wider. Number one. Number two that comes in over here is, see, we are living in the world of internet and we know how information is being shared on internet, and it is with the speed of light that it goes. And what kind of situation comes in when it comes to national security, law and order, or something else. And for that, if a law enforcement agency or the government has to take certain measures so that law and order can be maintained, taking that stand, I think, is absolutely okay. There are reasons for which you have to have it, not just in India, but worldwide. This has been done. And you cannot curtail that aspect from the government or from the law enforcement and say that why are you not now enforcing the law, or you're incapable to enforce it, or to, have a proper law and order in a country. One side, you can not expect them to do the job without giving them the power to execute or to work seamlessly. But again, I'm with the Supreme Court on this and with all of us that we have got the right without a proper manner, without following the due process, and without going beyond the scope for which that exclusions are there, that exception is there to that freedom. If somebody goes, it's again hurting my freedom of speech and expression. And I think that's where we need to bring in more clarity, because it has been utilized a lot. There has to be little more transparency, and I think for that Supreme Court went a step ahead in putting it across not beyond 15 days, because no situation can arise which can be beyond 15 days of a ban. It takes away, or it hampers my thing, and there has to be a proper process that has to be followed for that part. So till that extent it is okay, but I'm not absolute against that part, because no country or no law enforcement agencies can work without this. We are no more in the physical world. We are in combination of digital and physical, and digital creates much more damage than the physical world right now. We have seen how the messages which were being sent has created a law and order situation rather than already existing at some places, where I send something about some community that this is happening and other community get hurt, and they start. And in actual, if you'll see, those are morphed pictures or videos that has been shared on those on those platforms, and a lot of other pictures keep sharing. And because of that, if they have to curtail that internet in that area, that's where it happens. Over to you, Shreya.
Arvind Kumar, if I can get you in. Arvind Kumar, I mean, one question that everybody has to ask is, why is India so high on this? I mean, look at it globally. World over, protests happen. Protests is a right in any democratic country. Protests happen legally, protests happen illegally, with permissions, without permissions. But the number of internet clampdowns, internet suspensions that have happened across the country, just the last year itself, and for the last several years, according to the reports that are up on your screens as well, have been the highest around the world. How do you look at that? What's the reason for this?
Because the citizens of India, I find, especially in a disturbed area, I find them very, very irresponsible in their conduct. They just keep on forwarding messages which they get without finding out without verifying the truth in it, and they keep on creating issues. After all, law and order agencies have to maintain law and order, and they have to clamp the shutdown only because of this, because of irresponsible behavior of people of our country. They think that they have the freedom and they can misuse it, they can abuse it, and they can get away with it. So at times it becomes necessary, because it causes a lot of difficulties to law and order agencies also, to police also, to magistracy also, because even they can't function. Then they have to take recourse to wireless messages, and it becomes difficult for them also. But it's a necessity which has to be enforced if they want to maintain law and order. So I don't think any district.
So here's the question, Arvind Kumar Jain, and I'm asking you this again. Are you seeing this as an Indian problem? I'm saying an Indian problem because are you seeing this particularly as a character trait of Indians? Because this really is a human problem. This tendency to forward messages, this tendency to read, to grasp, to share messages that instantly pleases one's psyche, what one thinks is their version of the truth, to not stop. Some of us, of course, are very cautious about it. Some are not. But that's really a human psyche that isn't just an Indian psyche. Why does India surpass it all? Why is India so quick at banning or suspending internet services?
Because it helps in maintaining law and order. I have not studied it at global level, but in our country, I have seen it in UP also on a few occasions. During my service time, we enforced it, and it helped us. And we lifted also. The restrictions are lifted within 24 hours or 48 hours as soon as situation becomes normal. It helps in maintaining law and order. That's why it's done. Otherwise, generally, district administration and state government, they try to avoid it.